Revealed, how a homeless woman showed an Arab millionaire the amazing life lessons he had hidden. In the heart of the city, where skyscrapers cast long shadows over the streets, a woman named Sarah roamed the park, her nimble fingers finding treasure among the discarded. Each can she collected sang a silent victory. Though her clothes were worn and her hair tangled, there was a glow about her, a spirit that refused to wither away. Little did anyone know, Sarah, with her heart as big as the sky, was a beacon of hope amidst the concrete jungle. As the sun dipped low, warm hues painted the horizon. Sarah sat on a bench, breaking apart a sandwich, sharing half of it with another stranger who had fallen on hard times. More than food, we need connection, she would say, a smile illuminating her face. Her laughter echoed softly among the trees, drawing others close. In that moment, she wasn't just a homeless woman, she was the embodiment of resilience, a reminder of the tenacity of the American dream. Miles above, in a sleek high-rise, Amir paced his boardroom like a caged lion, $1 million deal slipping through his fingers. The world below blurred into insignificance as he buried himself in profits and ambitions. Yet, as he closed his eyes, he heard whispers of laughter carried by the wind from Sarah's park. A nagging desire surged within him to escape the cold reach of concrete and steel. So, Amir decided to volunteer at the local shelter, hoping to ease a burden on his conscience. The moment he saw Sarah, his heart sank, a mix of pity and indifference clouded his judgment. But then he saw her conversing with others, her gaze bright and hopeful. The way she listened, the way she shared, this was no ordinary woman. As days turned into weeks, Amir began to see the world through her lens. Each story she told unraveled the tightly wound fabric of his own heart, awakening emotions he had buried deep beneath a mountain of ambition. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue, but then, chaos erupted within his tech empire. A scandal threatened to drown him in scandalous headlines. Amir was faced with a soul-crushing decision: retreat to the comforting walls of elitism or stand bravely alongside Sarah and her community. As he wrestled with this choice, a tremor of possibility grew in his chest. For the first time, he considered aligning himself with those he once overlooked. Amid the pressure, as rallies formed in Sarah's park, a spark ignited. The community pulled together, driven by Sarah's unwavering kindness. The air buzzed with anticipation. Would Amir find the courage to redefine his success? As tensions rose and decisions loomed, he stood at the precipice of a new life, one that bled compassion and connection. Yet, would he have the strength to embrace it and share it with Sarah, a woman who had showed him a path he never knew existed? The question lingered in the air, leaving both their fates hanging in the balance, its weight heavy with promise and uncertainty. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the park, Amir faced the gathering crowd with a heart full of conflict. He had always sought success in profit, independence, and recognition, but now he was becoming entrenched in something much deeper, a realization that true wealth resided in the bonds of human connection. Sarah stood at the center of the rally, her voice rising with passion as she called for unity among the city's outcasts. Each word seemed to weave a tapestry of hope that pulled Amir closer. But just as he stepped forward to join her, the flashing lights of cameras surrounded him. Reporters were clamoring for sound bites, desperate to capture the downfall of the tech mogul. Amir could feel their eyes boring into him, but he pushed through the noise, his gaze fixed on Sarah. Her spirit was infectious, a lighthouse guiding him through the storm. "Let us make our voices heard," Sarah shouted, and the crowd roared back in agreement. Amir wondered if he could muster the courage to align himself with her vision, if he could stand beside her and truly listen and support her instead of merely observing from a distance. As he joined the throng, he thought of the endless meetings and contracts that had consumed his life. Here, amidst the laughter and camaraderie, he felt more alive than he ever had in those glass-walled boardrooms. Each person spoke of struggles, dreams, and moments of triumph. Their stories reached into his heart, unraveling his fear and stirring a sense of purpose he didn't know he had. "Amir!" Sarah called over the crowd, her eyes lighting up when she spotted him. "Join me." In that moment, the world around them faded. He stepped up beside her, heart racing, the moment both terrifying and exhilarating. "I want to help," he confessed, and her smile, radiant and genuine, melted away the last dregs of his hesitation. Together, they became a united front, sharing the microphone as their movement captivated all who listened. Amir spoke of change, of opportunity, and of hope. The harsh edges of the scandal surrounding him seemed to soften in the warm embrace of the community. For the first time, he felt like he belonged not to the elite, but to something greater, a purpose that extended far beyond himself. But as the rally reached its peak, Sarah's expression shifted. A darkness crossed her face, her brow furrowed with concern as she turned her gaze toward the approaching sirens, a reminder that the world they were fighting against was closing in. It was a stark reminder of the challenges ahead. "Amir, what if the city tries to shut us down?" she whispered anxiously, her voice barely audible over the cheers of the crowd. Amir's heart sank. The thought of losing this burgeoning connection, this chance at a new beginning, pierced through him. Would they truly face opposition, or could they overcome the looming darkness together? Questions coursed through his mind as he searched her eyes for reassurance. The spark of connection between them flickered, unstable yet beautiful. In that instant, Amir knew they were standing on the edge of something transformative, but the battle was just beginning. Would their alliance endure the impending storm? As the voices rose around them, it was clear, change was imminent, but so was the risk. Would Amir cling to the past or embrace a brighter, more compassionate future alongside Sarah? The sirens blared louder, a clear warning of the challenges ahead, leaving both Amir and Sarah to wonder just how far they were willing to go for the change they believed in. The sirens wailed closer now, a discordant symphony to the passionate cries of the crowd. Amir could see the unease settling in Sarah's eyes, a flickering doubt that threatened to dim the light of hope they had kindled together. He reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "We can't let them scare us," he urged, hoping to draw strength from their connection. She looked down at their clasped hands, the warmth bridging the gap between their uncertainties. "But what if they're serious? What if they really do try to shut us down?" Her voice trembled, betraying her fierce resolve. Amir shifted slightly, feeling the weight of the crowd pressing in on them. The connection felt electric, yet fragile. He had spent his life avoiding conflict, stacking his fortunes behind walls of luxury and status. Now, standing shoulder to shoulder with Sarah, he sensed a different kind of power, the kind that came from shared purpose and unyielding courage. "Let us not focus on their threats," he said, voice steadier than he felt. "Let us show them the strength of our community." The words felt like a vow as they resonated in his heart. They stood together, two battered souls drawn together by circumstance and hope, prepared to face the storm. The atmosphere shifted as the authorities rolled in, blue lights flashing ominously against the twilight. A few familiar faces in the crowd exchanged worried glances, but many stood firm, rallying behind Sarah and Amir. The organizers had prepared for this. Their movement was more than just voices, it was a lifeline for those who had been forgotten. And now, it was their turn to remind the world who they were. As the officers stepped out of their vehicles, policing gear glinting under the fading sun, one officer approached and raised a megaphone. "This gathering is unauthorized. You must disperse immediately." His voice boomed, swallowing the air. A hush fell over the crowd, tension thickening like smoke. Amir could feel the raw energy around him, the beating hearts of each individual, united in fear and determination. Sarah stepped forward, her chin high, eyes blazing. "We have a right to be here. We're not breaking any laws by standing for our community." Amir's breath caught at her fierce stance. This was the Sarah who rallied the spirits of the lost, the Sarah he had come to admire and respect. "You think you can silence us?" one man shouted from the back. Others joined in, their shouts rising like waves crashing against a shore. "Community over fear," echoed another voice, their rallying call igniting the crowd once more. Amir felt his heart surge with pride and exhilaration. He clenched Sarah's hand tighter, feeling the echo of their shared resolve travel through him. Together, they were standing up not just for themselves but for everyone who had ever been pushed aside, made to feel small. As the officer's patience began to wear thin, Sarah leaned closer to Amir. Her voice was nearly lost amid the chaos, yet it cut straight to his core. "We need a plan. If they decide to force us out, we can't let them divide us. Can you help?" Amir hesitated, the weight of the past still clinging to him. But this was different. This was real. The collective heartbeat of the crowd pulsed in him, and it was undeniable. They were all in this together. "I will," he said, the words stronger than he imagined they would be. He pulled her closer, amplifying their unity against the unfolding threat. "Let us show them who we are." With a renewed surge of hope, Sarah raised their joined hands into the air, a signal that ignited the spirit of the crowd. But as they rallied, a chill crept over Amir's spine. What if this was the moment everything unraveled? There was uncertainty in the air, not just from the officers, but within himself. How far was he willing to go for this cause? And what were the consequences waiting on the other side? The sirens blared once more, a stark reminder that the confrontation was just beginning. In the heart of chaos, would they become a symbol of change, or would they be crushed underfoot by the very system they fought against? The answers loomed like dark clouds overhead, and Amir felt the storm brewing both outside and within himself. What was he truly willing to risk for a life filled with purpose and connection? The tension was electric, crackling in the air like distant thunder. Amir felt a strange blend of warmth and anxiety swirling inside him. Sarah's face shone with determination, her spirit lighting up the encroaching darkness like a beacon. It was contagious, he could sense others around him gathering strength, their faces fierce and unyielding. "Let us do it together," Sarah urged, lifting their joined hands higher. "Everyone, hold on to what we believe in. We're not just a crowd, we're a community." Her words echoed through the sea of upturned faces. Members of the crowd began to raise their hands too, creating a wave of solidarity that felt like a pulse flowing through their bodies. Amir swallowed hard, his heart racing. He couldn't let fear hold him back any longer, he didn't want to go back to a life of apathy and silence. So he raised his other hand, joining Sarah in a silent promise, a promise to fight, to be heard. From the front lines, the officer with the megaphone looked more irritated than threatened. "This is your final warning," he barked. "Disperse now or face arrest." But instead of retreating, the crowd only grew louder. Shouts surged like a mighty tide, "We won, back down." They repeated it over and over, each phrase tightening the bond between them. It was a beautifully chaotic chorus, a cacophony of unity. Suddenly, Amir caught a glimpse of a face in the crowd that he recognized, his old friend Malik, a man who had fallen on hard times and was now part of this movement for survival. The sight struck Amir. Malik had once worn tailored suits, dined at the best restaurants, and now he stood here, raising his voice for a chance at dignity. Amir's heart ached for the trials his friend had faced. A woman nearby, with wild hair and fierce eyes, picked up a banner and waved it with purpose. "For those who've lost everything, this fight is for you." Her voice carried like a battle cry. The passion exuded from her spilled into the crowd, uniting them in shared struggle. Amir felt that same fire start to ignite within him. What had he been afraid of? What was worth more than this? He looked at Sarah, who gazed back at him with a spark of hope in her eyes, the kind that could light 1,000 dark corners. "Let us show them we're not afraid," Amir called out, finding his own voice among the thrumming energy of the crowd. "We're standing for the hope that lives in all of us." His words seemed to fuel the fire even more, and the crowd responded with cheers. Suddenly, the officer stepped forward, signaling to his fellow officers, who began to move toward the front lines with a clear determination to break the formation. Amir's heart dropped. This was it, the moment when everything would ignite, or they'd fade like whispers in the wind. "Stay together!" Sarah shouted over the mounting commotion. "Don't let them push us apart. We are stronger than they think." But Amir sensed the chaos clawing at the edges. "What should we do?" he asked, panic rising in his chest. He could feel their fearless front wavering, and uncertainty threatened to chain him to inaction. In that moment of indecision, he caught Sarah's eye again. Her gaze anchored him as she leaned in. "We need to hold our ground, make a message they can't ignore." But as they braced for impact, the world narrowed down to a single thought racing through Amir's mind: what if this was the moment that would change everything? And what if, amidst the fray, he lost the very thing he found so precious, his connection with Sarah and the community, the things that had changed him forever? As the officers closed in, Amir felt air leave his lungs, and then he realized, perhaps he had everything to lose, and everything to gain. The choice was in his hands. Would he step forward to embrace the fight, or would he let fear dictate his future? His heart pounded with the weight of the impending clash, and he wondered, would they rise together, or would they be torn apart by fear? Amir's breath caught in his throat as the officers pushed closer, their uniforms a stark contrast against the vibrancy of the crowd. The air thickened, and all he could hear were pounding hearts and the rustling whispers of uncertainty. A pang of doubt twisted in his stomach. Could they really stand their ground when confronted by authority? "Hold strong!" Sarah shouted, breaking through his turmoil. "For every voice unheard. For every life affected." Her voice pierced through the din, lifting spirits like a gust of wind at their backs. Amir felt the warmth of conviction spreading through the throng. Memories of nights spent hiding from the shadows of despair flooded his mind. Growing up, he'd watched the world from a distance, too afraid to join in. But nowhere else felt as real as this moment, this stand against injustice. Just then, the officer raised his megaphone again. "This is your last chance," he barked, ire spilling from his lips. "Disperse, or we will take action." Amir's knees wobbled, yet it felt as if the collective heart of the crowd pulsed encouragement through him. He thought of Malik, of the woman with the banner rallying for lost souls, and the fire ignited further. This wasn't just about them, it was about propelling the unnoticed into the light. "Stay united!" Amir yelled, surprising even himself with the power of his voice. "They want us to scatter, let us show them our strength." The sound of unified cries swelled around him, a wall of tenacity forging forward like an unstoppable wave. Every shout, every footstep became a testament to their cause, spreading courage that seeped into each person's bones. They were staring down something monstrous, yet standing side by side, it felt like they could take on the world. Suddenly, the officers moved in, a line half formed as they brandished shields and truncheons. Amir's heart raced as terror gripped him. They were outnumbered, and the reality of confrontation loomed heavy on the air. Would they really speak against such power? "I'm scared," he admitted to Sarah, his voice barely above a whisper. She squeezed his hand tighter, eyes blazing with purpose. "Fear can't outweigh our resolve, Amir. We've come too far to turn back now." With each moment that passed, Amir felt the grip of fear cracking, replaced by the shared energy of the crowd. He glanced at Malik, who shifted his stance, face set in fierce determination. Then Amir thought of all the voices that had been silenced, all those who never got the chance to fight. Strength surged inside him. In that second, fear receded. This was a choice, a moment to draw a line in the sand, and bravery swelled within him, attacking the remnants of doubt. He wouldn't back down. The crowd tightened around him, a living entity of defiance. Faced with the officers, they were no longer just individuals but a powerful united front. Each heart beat along with his in that moment, their connected hopes and dreams pulsing like a heartbeat echoing through the night. Forward! Amir shouted once more, the word empowering as it pressed deep into the fervent crowd. We stand together. At that, they surged. The palpable energy surged ahead, ready to break through even the toughest barriers. And just like that, Amir's entire world shifted. In the face of fear, he had chosen to embrace the fight, but then, chaos erupted. A loud bang rang out. Panic flickered through the crowd as they stumbled like leaves caught in an unexpected storm. Amir's heart raced, adrenaline coursing through him. What had just happened? He reached for Sarah, but his vision was filled with chaos, the crowd splitting, faces swirling. Was this the moment everything would shatter? Desperation clawed at him as he searched for her through the chaos, knowing the fight wasn't over yet. Would he find her in the storm that followed? Amir's heart hammered in his chest, each beat a frantic drum as he pushed through the sea of bodies. The loud bang still echoed in his mind, creating a whirlwind of fear and confusion. He felt like he was swimming against a strong current, the crowd surging in every direction. Sarah! He yelled, desperation tightening his voice. He reached out to grab anyone, hoping to find her familiar hand. But all he felt was the shove of bodies rushing past him. Someone stumbled into him, and he looked into the frightened eyes of a stranger who shook his head, unable to offer reassurance. The crowd soon morphed into a mass of chaotic energy, people shouting, pushing, and running. Amir could barely think as the adrenaline surged through him. Images of participants falling, faces twisting in fear, and the officers closing in on them flooded his mind. Each scene heightened his urgency. The officers shouted commands, their voices mingling with the anguished cries of the crowd. Tear gas wafted through the air, stinging Amir's eyes. He coughed, hands instinctively rising to shield his face. Panic threatened to swallow him whole, but he couldn't let it. Keep moving. Don't give in. Sarah's voice broke through the chaos like a beacon of hope. He turned sharply toward the sound, recognizing the determination that flowed through her words. There she was, on the other side of a throng of people, waving frantically. Relief flooded over him, followed by an urgent drive to reach her. He forced his way through the chaos, dodging desperate people trying to escape, casting startled glances back at the officers. Amir! She shouted, her voice cutting through his panic like a knife. She was close now, just an arm's length away. He could see her expression shift from fear to fierce resolve as she grabbed his hand, anchoring him in the storm. Don't look back. We need to stay together. Follow me. Sarah tugged him along, weaving through the crowd. Amir's heart swelled as he followed, adrenaline mixing with hope. They were a part of something larger than themselves, and despite the fear, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were building a future together. But just as they reached the perimeter of the crowd, the officers advanced with their shields, blocking the exit. The scene felt surreal, the lights flashing from cameras capturing the moment, almost like a cinematic backdrop to their real lives. Stand firm. Show them we won't back down. Sarah shouted, raising her voice above the chaos. The surrounding people began to rally again. Her passion reignited the embers of courage that Amir had felt moments before. Suddenly, a powerful chant erupted from the crowd. Each voice echoed Amir's belief this couldn't end here. No justice, no peace. They roared, drowning out the fear. The sound was a tidal wave, crashing over the confusion and doubt, pushing forward like an unstoppable force. Amir felt the weight of history behind those words, and the realization hit him like a light bulb. They were fighting for those silenced, for those who had felt alone. Tears pricked at the corners of his eyes, pride swelling in his chest. Then, amidst the chaos, he noticed a woman standing just outside the line of officers. She looked frail, wearing a tattered coat and holding a battered sign that read, "We are all human." Her gaze pierced through the crowd's energy, and Amir felt something inside him shift. It was as if her presence broke through the noise, reminding him why they were there in the first place. Their fight wasn't just for themselves, but to bring light to the lives, just like hers, that had been overlooked and undervalued. In that moment, Amir knew he had to do something more than just chant words of defiance. He had to reach out, to connect. But would he be able to break through the barriers, both physical and emotional, and actually make a difference? The storm swirled around them as the clash of voices continued. Would this be the moment that defined their fight? Amir's grip tightened around Sarah's hand as the standoff with the officers grew more intense. The crowd surged forward, their collective voice rising like a phoenix from ashes, but the wall of shields held firm. The moment stretched, the world around Amir narrowing to just the noise, the faces, and that frail woman clutching her sign. "Sarah," Amir whispered, feeling a swell of urgency rising within him. "We need to help her." Her eyes flicked to the woman, worry etched across her brow. "Amir, we can't. The officers know. Look at her," he insisted, pointing. "She's out here alone, and we're fighting for her. We can't forget that." Sarah hesitated, something shifting in her expression. "But it's so dangerous." Amir met her gaze, his heart pounding. He thought back to the screams, the cries of people who felt lost and powerless. He couldn't stand by any longer. This was the very reason they were there. To make a stand, to connect, to uplift each other. The chant swelled again, drowning out their worries as if the crowd itself was urging them forward. No justice, no peace. The energy was electric, invigorating. Amir could feel his resolve hardening, his fear melting away. "Stay close," he urged Sarah. With a deep breath, he broke away from her hand, pushing toward the line of officers. Surging forward, he felt the heat of countless bodies pressed against him, the urgency of passion and fear mingling in the air. The woman's eyes met his, her expression a mix of hope and despair, and he felt a jolt of determination rush through him. "Excuse me," he shouted, the roar of the crowd becoming a backdrop to his voice. The officers were unmoving, their shields like an unyielding wall. "We're not your enemy. We're fighting for everyone." The closest officer turned to him, eyes narrowed, but Amir didn't waver. He took a half-step forward, positioning himself in a way that could draw attention away from the woman. He was no longer just Amir, a voice in the crowd, he was a representation of every soul that had fought for human dignity. "Please, let her through. She deserves to be heard." The words poured from him, fueled by the recognition of every life that had been cast aside, every individual who was deemed insignificant. Behind him, he felt Sarah's presence solidifying his resolve. "We can't turn away," she said, her voice strong. "Let her through." The crowd took a collective breath. The weight of their unity was palpable, a rising tide of support that wrapped around Amir like a protective shield. As if sensing the energy around them, the officers hesitated, glancing at each other, evaluating the emotions that ran hot within the mass of humanity. Amir didn't care about their indecision. It was this moment that mattered. The woman stepped forward with resolve, her gaze unwavering, signaling that she wouldn't back down either. They would stand together. They would be seen. "Stop!" a voice thundered from the line of officers. Silence fell, the sounds of the chants fading for a heartbeat. All eyes were now on Amir, Sarah, and the woman with the battered sign. "Step back," the officer commanded, and Amir's heart raced. Would this be the end of their courage? Or the beginning of something remarkable? What now? He thought, uncertain yet fiercely hopeful. Would they lead a new wave of transformation, or would fear shatter their momentum? As the tension thickened, Amir felt the weight of the moment pressing down. In the chaos, everything seemed to hinge on this one action, on this one choice. Would they stand up, or would they step back? The answer loomed, waiting for someone to break free. Amir felt the pressure in the air shift, like the moments before a storm breaks. He looked into the eyes of the officers stationed before him, some weary, some indifferent, all wearing a mask of authority that seemed to suffocate the light of humanity. Could they really be so detached from the very lives they were meant to protect? Sarah squeezed his arm, grounding him for a moment. What if they push back? She whispered, her bravery mingling with fear. The woman stood a few paces away, resolute yet vulnerable, her sign raised high. It trembled in the wind, just like their hopes. Amir turned to the woman again. You're not alone, he called out, projecting his voice beyond the tension in the air. We're with you. His words hung heavy, nearly tangible, as the crowd echoed his declaration. We're with you. We're with you. A fire ignited in the shuffling mass, faces transforming with renewed purpose. They were no longer just spectators, they were participants in something bigger than each of them could fully grasp. This was unity lived out loud, a wave of shared heartbeat rising and crashing against the cold weight of authority before them. The officer in charge stepped forward, still imposing like a statue but wavering slightly under the escalating energy. Back off. He shouted again, but this time, his voice cracked, betraying a hint of uncertainty. The crowd surged, a ripple of determination that pushed against the aura of control. Amir! Sarah shouted, panic threading her voice. We can't keep pushing. But Amir wasn't backing down. He caught the hopeful gaze of the woman once more, the reflection of countless untold stories and struggles blazing in her eyes. In that fleeting connection, there was courage and collective consciousness. You're standing for so many. He yelled, determination sharpening his tone. Let her be heard. The moment hung suspended, a tightrope strung between fear and hope. Just then, a young man near the front of the crowd stepped forward, his face marked with determination. If they push her back, they push all of us back. His voice carried like a beacon, igniting flames of passion in the crowd. Yeah. A chorus of agreement erupted. We'll go for her. The officers exchanged glances, and Amir felt the crack in their shield, their fear starting to show. What had initially seemed like a monolith of authority now appeared more like a fragile construct, teetering on the brink. Stand down. That same officer barked again, the certainty in his voice faltering as the crowd pressed closer, emboldened by the young man's call to action. Amir's heart raced. This was their chance, this was their moment. He stepped closer, heart pounding fiercely. Please let her speak. We want to walk away. Tears pricked at his eyes, charges of energy buzzing within him. It was a plea not just for the woman, but for every person who felt unheard and alone. And then, as if the universe turned on that one single moment, the officer lowered his shield slightly. His posture softened for the first time. The murmurs spread like wildfire among his fellow officers, doubt creeping into their ranks. Let her through, he said, the weight of his armor feeling suddenly heavier. Relief washed over Amir, followed by a surge of triumph that sparked joy. The crowd leaned forward, electric with anticipation, and as the woman took a tentative step toward the line of officers, Amir reached out for Sarah, part of him still anchored in uncertainty, but a single thought rang in his mind, a pulsing melody of what was ahead. They had all taken a leap, and in that moment, standing shoulder to shoulder, Amir realized they wouldn't just be witnesses to change, they would be participants in crafting it. As the crowd followed the woman closer, Amir felt alive, invigorated by the wave of collective power. But a nagging question lingered, waiting to be answered. What revelations would come from her message? What truths needed to be unveiled to ignite the fire in their souls? With a deep breath, he leaned closer, eager to witness the moment that might change everything for them all. The air crackled with anticipation as the woman stepped forward, her breath hitching slightly. Amir could see the struggle in her expression, fear battling with a deep well of hope. The crowd around him throbbed with energy, a living entity with a single heart. Every heartbeat echoed a promise that they were ready to listen. As she reached the officers, the atmosphere shifted again. The officer who had seemed so rigid moments before now wore a look of confusion. He glanced at his colleagues, their eyes wide, almost pleading. You don't have to do this alone, Amir called out to the woman, his voice cutting through the silenced crowd. His words hung, thick as the humidity in the air, weighted with urgency. Please. She cried out, her voice breaking. Yet, with conviction, she lifted her sign higher. I want to speak to share what we face every day. Her words rippled through the throng, igniting a swell of murmurings. The crowd rallied around her, their commitment unshakable. Let her speak. Someone shouted. Yeah. We want to hear. Affirmed another voice, swelling like a tide against the officer's ranks. Amir felt a push from the crowd behind him, several bodies leaning in, wanting to move forward with the woman. Each person was a story waiting to be told, each face etched with concern, passion, or fear. Together, they created a wall of humanity against the stony detachment of authority. As the officer finally stepped aside, the woman took a deep breath, her eyes glistening. I am not just a statistic. I am a mother, a survivor, a voice drowned out by indifference. Her declaration ricocheted back to Amir, fueled by emotion. He could feel the enormity of her words and the impact it would have. Suddenly, the world shifted, and the crowd became a part of her narrative. They were no longer spectators, they became the witnesses she needed. Amir squeezed Sarah's hand, sharing in this transformative moment, both uniting their sentiments and whispering an unspoken understanding. Tell us. Someone in the front shouted. We're listening. I live on the streets, she continued, her head held high, courage radiating from her every word. I don't want your pity. I want change. The collective breath of the crowd seemed to synchronize, a collective heartbeat thrumming like a drum. Each of her words trembled with resonance, the weight of truth pulling them in closer. You have power. The woman cried. Every single one of you. Your voices matter. Amir felt that power swell within him, the weight of her message pressing into his chest. Together, she added, her eyes scanning the faces before her, we can transform how our city sees us. We're more than just what you pass by. We are family. The word family echoed like a bell, vibrating with a deeper meaning. Amir's heart felt fuller, swelling with hope. He could see the officers' gazes soften. Perhaps they were starting to understand that they were part of a community too, but just as the air shifted again, pulling Amir into a swirl of excitement and fear, there was a sudden rustling at the edges of the crowd. An official car pulled up, lights flashing. Anxiety surged, and Amir's stomach dropped. Is this a setup? Sarah whispered, dread flickering in her eyes. Was this moment of truth about to crumble under the weight of authority again? Would they go back to silence after stepping so close to the edge of revelation? As the officers darkened, tension rising with the sirens, Amir held his breath. What could they possibly do to protect the voice that had come forth, that had dared to demand recognition? The world turned on a dime, and Amir realized they stood at a precipice. Together, united, what would they decide to do next? The sirens pierced the charged air, a harsh reminder that the world was still watching, still waiting. Amir's heart raced as he glanced at Sarah, whose expression showcased a mix of hope and worry. He could sense the tremors of uncertainty creeping back in. But then, he turned back to the woman, standing tall, holding her battered sign with a firmness that echoed the resolve forming around them. Together, she urged, her voice resonating like a drumbeat. We can change the narrative. The weight of her words sent a shiver through Amir's spine, pushing him forward, igniting the spark of courage buried deep within him. As the crowd surged around her, arms raised, voices united, Amir felt the overwhelming tide of human connection. Each call for change fueled their collective desire for recognition. The fear of the officers started to dissipate, replaced by the intoxicating faith in their collective strength. A wave rolled through the crowd, laughter, passion, and resolve intertwining, drowning out the sirens that threatened to break their moment. Everyone, we can do this. Amir shouted, conviction pouring into his words. Let us show them we're not just numbers, we're stories, families, dreams. Each cry rallied those standing around him, and suddenly, they were no longer just fighting for one woman, but for every soul brushed aside. The officials stepped hesitantly from their car, flanked by a squad of stern-faced officers. Eyes widened, their authority challenged as the movement pulsed like a living entity, demanding to be seen, heard, and acknowledged. Their once imposing presence now felt trivial against the fierce determination rising in Amir and Sarah. "Why are we afraid of each other?" he called out to the officers. "We're fighting for humanity. Don't you hear us?" The words resonated deep within him, breaking down walls he hadn't even known existed. The crowd echoed his sentiments, their resolve building, each heartbeat a testament to unity. The woman stepped forward again. At the core of every displacement, there's a human story waiting to be told. Her voice cracked with emotion, building to a crescendo that drew every gaze to her. "I'm not here for pity. I'm here for change. Together, let us forge a path, open doors for those who've been locked out for too long." Her raw passion sent shivers through Amir, and he watched as the officers exchanged looks of disbelief, the tension in the air palpably shifting. There was no longer an opposing force, all they saw were their reflections in the eyes of the people standing shoulder to shoulder, demanding recognition. "Can you hear the truth?" Sarah's voice cut through fear, rallying the crowd. "We won't be silent anymore. It's time for action." Her declaration churned the atmosphere, laughter and shouts blending into an undeniable anthem of resilience. Amir stepped closer, reaching out to the woman standing with her sign. "We stand with you," he declared, his heart bubbling with purpose. Sarah's eyes gleamed with pride, filled with the warmth of newfound hope. They were no longer individual threads but a tapestry woven into something beautiful, powerful, even in its rawness. The officers shifted, hesitant. Could they step back, too? After moments that felt like eternity, one officer finally lifted his gaze, softened by the collective energy. The barriers they had once worn like armor began to dissolve, and he stepped forward, allowing the light of understanding to break through the opacity of authority. Was this a turning point? Amir felt an electric sense of possibility pulse through the crowd. "We need each other," he yelled, tilting his chin upward, unconsciously challenging the weight of the past. A cheer erupted, and in that breathless instant, they all swayed together, like a delicate dance. "Let us redefine what it means to belong," the woman continued, stepping into the space created by their strength. "Help us build bridges instead of walls." The request fell softly but firmly, carrying an urgency that echoed in the hearts of everyone present. Suddenly, a breakthrough seemed possible. The crowd swelled with renewed energy as officers shifted closer, their shields lowering, replaced by open palms. The movement surged forward, gaining strength, the words of every dreamer woven into the fabric of the moment. Amir felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes. Once a man lost in ambition, he now felt a surge of belonging that transcended wealth and status. In that moment, he grasped the serendipity of it all. Here was the beauty of humanity, the power of connection, resilience, and, most of all, hope. "Will you stand with us?" he called out, feeling the weight of the call to action press against him. "Will we do this together?" The crowd roared back, the sound washing over him like an unstoppable tide. As the atmosphere shifted once more, a new dawn broke. There, amid the chaos, a burgeoning sense of community unfolded, wrapped in the promise that even in the toughest moments, hope could beckon a grand, transformative wave of change. The future leaned toward them, shimmering on the horizon like a beacon. Together, Sarah, Amir, and the woman raised their voices in harmony, breaking free from the restraints that had held them captive for far too long. In their unity, they found strength more than they ever thought possible. Change was no longer a distant dream, it was a palpable force, alive in the air. They were ready to face whatever challenges came next, knowing they stood not just for themselves, but for every voice ever silenced. Amir's heart swelled with pride and purpose, knowing that their journey had only just begun. They were lighting the way for a brighter tomorrow, and he would never let that flame flicker out. This was the moment, the beginning of something breathtaking: transformation, connection, and that beautiful truth. Together, they were unstoppable. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.